Yikers, there are a bunch of things going on this weekend. From the Muirhead reunion out in Unger to the Jocelyn wedding north of town to piles of people being on holidays and taking off, there's a lot happening. I don't know who's going to be here on Sunday, but if you're here, this is what we're going to be talking about. In our sermon, we're going to be talking about the word generosity. Now, right away, you might think that generosity is going to be a sermon about you have to give more, you have to do more, blah, blah, blah. And really, yeah, the Bible does ask us, God does ask us to be generous people and give. That's true, and we could do a really good sermon about that. However, the passage that I'm going to share with you this Sunday from 2 Corinthians chapter 9 looks at generosity in a different way. In fact, it's not even demanding that we be generous. It's allowing us to see something about ourselves through our generosity. In this passage, the Apostle Paul says that if you stop and look at your generosity, you can learn something that you can learn in no other way. Something really useful and really helpful to you spiritually. What is that thing you can learn? You're going to have to be here on Sunday to find out, or watch the video. The sermon is called The Generosity Key: Why Giving is About So Much More Than Your Time or Your Money. In Bible study at 10 o'clock, we began 1 Kings chapter 17 last week, and it started with this really weird story about the prophet Elijah being fed by ravens. There are two more stories in chapter 17, and they're both equally as weird. But those weird stories are there to emphasize a point. And that point is really foundational to everything else Elijah is going to do. Everything else that faithful people are going to do is built on this foundation. So I want you to go read those strange stories in 1 Kings 17. That'll then flow into the 18th chapter, which again starts with another kind of weird sounding story. But then culminates with Elijah showing up and challenging the false teachers on Mount Carmel, one of my favorite stories in all of the Old Testament. So I doubt we're going to get to the Mount Carmel part late this week. That'll probably be later. But there are some weird stories, and weird stories make for good conversation. So go read those weird stories, figure out what might be going on here and why, and we'll discuss that on Sunday as well. It's going to be a busy weekend. If you're hanging around here, I've got weddings and rehearsals, and it's going to be busy. But Sunday morning is going to be great. I'm looking forward to seeing you there.